Stardate 74469.9. Hello and happy new year on Earth. Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a kind of smart, kind of funny podcast about new Star Trek and beyond. I'm your ensign on the con, Mariah Gossett, and with me on the view screen is
Clyde Haynes
and Grant Davis.
And we're back with another live podcast. We appreciate y'all being flexible with our schedules this holiday season. And we are tonight going to break down the penultimate episode of season 3, episode 12, There Is a Tide. Before we get into some housekeeping, let's go ahead and just jump right on into some hot breaks.
Oh, I'm missing my cue. There it is.
Thank you. Grant, what did
Mike handle this? So dropping the ball.
Grant, what did I
think?
Yeah.
Holy shit! This episode was fucking awesome. There you go. That's my hot break. No, I'll go on from there.
Okay, that's a hot break.
This I thought was a redemption for the Osyra character, who I now find extremely fascinating because of this episode. I thought the entire premise of using this like dastardly steal the disco ship in order to be able to try and broker a deal with the Federation and bring the chain and them aligned is so interesting, and like something that actually probably would be for the best of the galaxy if they were able to actually achieve that. To the point where I was like, oh wait, I'm so conflicted on this character. Am I rooting for her? Okay. Additionally, this episode is straight up Die Hard. How can I not love the fact that we have Michael Burnham crawling through vents, losing her shoes, being barefoot, getting stabbed and bleeding and wounded, and using a walkie-talkie to talk shit, like all of it. I'm like, this is Die Hard. This is so great. Everything from that opening sequence, which had Book and Michael running through the subspace, whatever thing they were running through, flying and shape-shifting around ships to get through to get there just in time. All of it was so intense, and I was just gripping my chair while I was watching it in the beginning. I was like, man, this is amazing. And it just kind of kept up through the rest of the episode to the point where I was like, I love this. This is how you deliver on the promise of what you set up. And I think I was a little bit down on last week's episode. I was kind of shitting on it a lot, actually. And this is such redemption. This was such a fun episode. I'm excited for where they're going to go with the finale, and I'm back in it. I'm sold. That's where I'm at.
Okay, so Chike, I just have to say, I know you're saying I better like this episode, so I'm gonna tell you, I did. I love this episode. It was great. I didn't think Die Hard, but I was thinking, wow, she got stabbed and is bleeding early. Why? But that being said, I love the way things came together. I think we were looking for Tilly to kind of redeem herself. I don't know that I quite got a redemption Tilly arc, but I did like what her character did. And again, I think what we're seeing is that not only is Tilly smart, but she really is kind of the heart of that team. So we don't need her to be Giorgio or Riker or Chakotay or anybody else. Who she is kind of unique and different. And so I like that. From the minute that the previously on rolled, I was thinking to myself, I told you that we were going to get Zara back, that he wasn't dead somewhere on the ice. Yeah. And so I thought he was an interesting kind of addition. And so I kind of like the way that played. You kind of had a big bad in Osyra, and you had this other, kind of junior bad guy. I like him better as a bad guy. And so I just thought there was a lot of things going on. I got to see Owo kick some more butt. So we got a little Terran Owo in the prime universe, like that was working for me. There was just a lot to like. And the dynamic between Stamets and Burnham at the end, and I know we'll get there. Last week we talked a lot about kind of the emotion and whether or not there was enough emotion and emotional weight. There was plenty of it in that scene. And so I looked at that and was thinking, oh my God, how are you going to give us that at the last 2 minutes of the episode? There's so much to unpack there. Oh my goodness, I cannot wait. So I love that. This was great. This is one of those, as I was watching it, I just wanted to tell everybody, leave me alone. I'm busy. And of course that did not happen, but I still enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah. Well, 3 out of 3 were all on the same page. I also really loved this episode. It was action packed. We got crawling through Jeffrey tubes, like you were saying, Grant, like all those fun little references where you can sort of see where Burnham is going with what's about to happen when she's like strapping herself in to shove out the airlock, the big bads that are chasing her. I honestly think the tete-a-tete between Vance and Osyra was some of the best dialogue of the season.
It was handled so well.
So well. It was very believable that these are two very equal weighted, industry titans of their own respects going after each other and trying to figure out, I don't trust you, but we have to move forward. How do we make this happen? And it was just such an interesting back and forth between them. I love that this episode is named after a Shakespeare quote, classic Trek, which we can talk about later. Again, like you were saying, Clyde, the emotional weight of Stamets and Burnham. I thought that was you could feel it. You could feel that tension in that room. So I thought this episode built up all of the tension that I am ready to see come to a peak next week. And I just want to dive in because I think there's just a ton of stuff that we want to cover. But before we dig a little bit deeper, Grant, can you tell everyone how they can support this little podcast of ours?
Boy, can I. Why don't you guys go to patreon.com/Star Trek Pod, and there you can make a per episode pledge. Give us $1 or $2. If you give $2 an episode, you will be able to access our exclusive Slack channel filled with a bunch of delightful, lovable Trekkies who all are willing to actually accept you with open arms. You should come join us. $2 an episode, where you get to come join us and chat all things Trek all through the week. And you get exclusive access to our bonus little episodes and minis that we do. So we appreciate all your support. If you enjoy what we do, and you want to kick us a few bucks to help keep this project of ours going, we appreciate it. Patreon.com/Star Trek Pod.
Hey, one of the best things about doing this live is we get to read comments, right? Like Kang says, I wish Nilsson had been in the episode instead of the rando bridge crew member, Lieutenant Ina. I could not agree with you more. And the fact that she got a line, I was like, who is this rando?
It's a red shirt. Someone's going to die, right? In the next episode.
As soon as they said, if someone drops, we're going to, anyway.
Yeah. But being able to read quotes and respond to things like that is one of the best things about doing this live. So if you are watching us on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, or wherever you're watching us, come on, participate. Don't just spectate. You can participate by typing POD, capital POD, capital pod in the chat, and we will try and read your comment or your question later on the show. But otherwise, talk to people, have fun, chat with us. We're paying attention.
Awesome. All right. We have a Tilly plan to take this episode on, so let's dig into it. There's a Tide was written by Kenneth Lin, who has also worked on House of Cards and Warrior, and directed by the Jonathan Frakes.
Of course it was.
This was Jonathan Frakes, and I like it.
It is a Frakes. This makes his 22nd episode of Trek that he has directed. And honestly, it felt, and we can kind of dig into it, it felt a little first contact-y to me. So I think there was some fun references there. This is the one made of shit. Just kidding. It's the one where the crew fights back to take the ship, and Admiral Vance goes toe to toe with Osyra. I have to get that out of the way because it was maybe
hilarious.
My favorite line of dialogue I've ever heard as she takes that bite, and him just going, "It's made of shit, you know." And I looked it up because I was like, wait, have replicators always been using like waste to create this? Because it's like a remattering of particles. So where are we getting the particles from? I did some loose research. It does seem like this might be a newer thing in this century due to lack of resources, but
wouldn't that
still,
make sense? Like you take
right.
the
Nothing
ship
wasted.
has to cycle all of its components, or it's constantly ejecting elements.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, it was one of my favorite moments. Every time I watched it a few times, it made me giggle every time. But I wanted to bring up and see what y'all thought about the title of this episode. There is a tide as a reference to Julius Caesar, where Brutus is talking to Cassius. And you can look it up if you put in "there is a tide of the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads to fortune" is like the big quote. But it's essentially a discussion of fate versus free will in regards to human life. We always love that discussion on a Trek episode. And it's the idea that you have to seize an opportunity at the right moment. If you wait for the tide to come in, but you wait too long, you might lose all your soldiers. But if you don't wait long enough, your boat's not going to get out to sea.
I get it now. And that is why the scientist's name is Aurelius.
Yeah.
Which is also a Roman general.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Marcus
Don't we
Aurelius.
love some good references on a Trek episode? But what
pretty
did
cool.
y'all...
I was curious about that.
Yeah. What do you think of Osyra now that we've sort of revealed more about her in this episode?
I love the fact that she's come across as more three-dimensional than originally thought, right?
Mhm.
And I think if you're gonna have a big bad, like if you think about the great big bads, really in any franchise, you want someone who is more than just a homicidal maniac or someone who's all about power, because it's easy to hate those, but the ones that are fun are the ones that you kind of go, oh, they make you pause for a second. And so her coming in and being more than we thought, or at least trying to be more than we thought, was interesting to me. And I was like, okay, I kind of want to see where this is going. I still don't trust her at all. And I think that dynamic, seeing her with Vance, was super interesting for like looking at both of them kind of going back and forth in a poker match. Yeah.
Right. It certainly fleshed out the character and made her much more three-dimensional, I guess, in that she's not just barking back and forth kind of witty one-liners with Tilly or ordering her guards to go get those guys, capture them. We now see a bigger picture of what her potential end goal is. And yeah, I think it's fair for us to still have our hackles up about whether or not we can trust her. But the idea that she didn't kill anyone on the Discovery ship, she did try and protect everyone. She's making a lot of concessions. It seems kind of like a legit approach for her. And it does seem interesting to me that if you think about her rising to power to be in the position that she is, then yes, she's going to have a lot of awful things on her resume that she did. And yes, she's operating slave camps and everything that the chain is involved in. But if she's trying to broker this deal to move away from that and acknowledging that those were sins that she had to do as a means to an end of being able to make this kind of negotiation with the Federation, I think that's super fascinating and a little bit of a redemption.
Well,
and that's why it's also great why that's such a breaking point between her and Vance. When he's like, you have to have accountability. And she's like, nah, fuck that.
I think it makes sense. So I think a lot of times when you see this big bad, you're always looking for the thing that they do that is really stupid, that's going to get them kind of killed or they're going to lose. And so the minute that she goes, okay, we're going to keep the bridge crew on and no one harm them. Like you basically said they're uber protected. So they can kill everybody, but you can't kill them. right? And I'm like, okay, but then we got a very legitimate reason to why she did that. And so I go, great writing. And to your point, Grant, the notion of she's trying to do something. She's got all this stuff in her past, right? And she's going, well, okay, what I ultimately want is to be queen of the Federation. She really wants to be Giorgio, right? And that breaking point, that dilemma, like that was I was like,
Do you think she wanted to be queen?
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I
wants
think
to
she
be boss.
wanted to be, I don't know if it's queen. I think she wanted to be the puppet master. I
Yes.
think she wants
Yeah.
to run everything behind the scenes, but without her face having to be anywhere.
Because she was willing to concede even on having someone else be the face of.
As long as she
Right.
controlled them. As
Yes.
long as she controlled that individual.
Yeah, and I saw David Maloney, who writes for Vulture, does the recaps for this show, described Osyra and the Emerald Chain to most citizens as the Amazon of the future. You didn't want this evil capitalist organization to run everything in your life, but here we are. And I thought that was such a good
Analogy.
kind of analogy and comparison. Yeah, because I was like, none of her citizens want to deal with her. It's just what they have. And like the fact that she's like, oh, they're willing to give up slavery. I'm willing to give up all of this stuff. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Not really. I'm going to find ways to hide things from you and to be a little bit devious in some ways. And then ultimately, she is not willing to sacrifice herself for her people at all.
And that's huge, though, because I think when you think about the Federation getting in bed with someone or partnering with someone, that is who the Federation is, right? The good of the many outweigh the good of the few. I mean, Vance literally said, hey, we're going to do things for the good of the many. And so that's why that's a deal breaker, because he's almost testing her character, right? Is this about you?
Yeah.
Right? Or are you really looking at people? And so I think if she had said, sure, even if she didn't mean it, if she had said, sure, then he would have been able to buy the fact that she was doing this for a greater good.
Right. But don't you think the lie detector would be like, that's a lie? Like she's not willing to go to trial.
My man, Eli. Yeah. I need one of those in my house.
Even then, it feels relatable. I find her pulling away relatable in that instance because she wants to ride in as a hero, potentially that is uniting all of this. And part of her end game is to be heralded as a person who brought everything together and salvaged the galaxy. But if she's also tried as this galactic war criminal, that kind of goes against her ego.
She needs someone to come in and give her the free pass for her to want to do anything noble.
But yeah, so there's very, I was gonna say human, but there's very
Orion
intentions there. Like it's relatable, I think, in that degree. And I also thought, like, this show has a tendency, I guess shows of this ilk have a tendency to, for the convenience of getting a plot forward and condensing it, just rushing kind of discussions and trials and negotiations like this. They're negotiating something huge that would probably have to involve dozens of people over months and months. And they're doing this over the course of like 40 minutes or something.
No one wants to see the paperwork.
Right? Yeah. So for the convenience of us, the audience, they're truncating it. And I thought in the manner in which they're truncating it, they're hitting all these core scenes and discussions that could be boring, I guess, but they weren't. How they wrote them, it was very engaging between Vance and Osyra, and this felt like a redemption for Vance. Like, I feel he's on the side of the Federation, and he has the proper principles intact for what he's fighting for. I was like, yeah, right on, dude.
Grant, I think to your point, though, the way they truncated it also showed us more about who Osyra was, right? So that was the foreshadowing. The fact that she couldn't even go through these negotiations, she was just like, boom, look, read this and sign this and let's move on. Like, I'm tired of talking. Is that really the partner that you want? Like,
well, she maybe. I mean, she was making concessions on other things, it seems. She was acknowledging what they were going to have to do. And when he read through the document, he was like, for the most part, a lot of this seems like
Too
this
good to
is
be
doable.
true.
Yeah, that's too good to be true.
Yeah, but it's the manner in which it was presented, right?
There's a lot of negotiations through time between powerful people that have poor intentions and they still make it
Oh,
work. And I think
100%.
that's evident in Trek too. Like I would imagine like the negotiations between the Federation and I'm gonna talk out my ass here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are.
The Klingons, when they were able to broker a peace early on, there's probably still a bit of a, you know, like turning your eye away from like these horrible atrocities that happen.
Well, I'm not just saying
the
that.
deal.
I think my issue is I would imagine that if we talk about the Federation and the Klingon or the Federation and even Vulcan, you're talking about stuff that happens like just the negotiation, the art of negotiation is people are gonna hold things in and they're gonna it's gonna take a while. She was just like the whole fact that she was just like, I can't sit here and do this. Like I can't negotiate, I can't play
Well,
politics.
I don't think that's what it was. I think she was ready to play politics and she's ready for this to go on, but she wasn't ready to face consequences for her own actions. And as soon as her consequences was put on the table, that's when she's like, I'm done. That was the end of the road for her. And I thought, it was very smart both in how they showed Osyra in the negotiating room with Vance, but also then we get this moment between what's his name? The Aurelio and Stamets in the engineering room where Aurelio is, explaining like Osyra's not a bad person. She let me live. Like I would have been dead by now if it wasn't for her because she's allowed me to have all of the best doctors and scientists and like all of this in order for me to be able to live my best life with my disability. And now I'm this great scientist. Can't you see how she's good? And then I thought it was interesting for Stamets to kind of throw it back. And I love that character development for Aurelio by the end when he gets to see Osyra's truest self when she murders Rin.
I thought Stamets and Aurelian was such a perfect battle of wits and like some Sherlockian kind of
emotional manipulation tactics.
Yeah, it was like, hey, I'm very quickly going to establish with you that I see you have kids and I also have kids. I have people I care about. And if you are a true altruistic man of science, you're going to realize that you're compromising on some of your beliefs and morals and convictions by simply having me imprisoned here and questioning me. Yeah. And like Stamets putting him on the spot and making him have to kind of have that back and forth and question himself. I was like, this is really good. This is a good dynamic.
I think that part of what this scene or the entire Stamets line reminded me of is that he's not military. Right. Like Stamets is a scientist in the truest form, right? Because he thought about at the end of season 1, he was going to leave Discovery and go work as literally like a university ship. Like Stamets is all about science. And so he was relating to Aurelio from that standpoint. So then when you see Burnham come in and go, yeah, I ain't got time for all of this, and shoots, stuns him and is like, we've got to go. That's a military decision. She's making a military decision where she's going, look, you are the key asset here and we need to take you off the board. That's a military decision. And so it's nice to see. We don't often get that play between the science and the military aspect in Starfleet in this show. And I like the fact that we went back there and it really reminded me, okay, this is who he is. I felt like I really got to see who the Stamets character was in this episode.
Yeah. P.W. Gregory saying the scientist really didn't want to talk about that. He was heavy in denial.
Yeah, because I mean, who wouldn't be if you're like, I'm a well-funded scientist who can do what I want. I have free reign, and like the person is good. It's that whole, like when you find out someone maybe they're a friend, and you find out they've done something really bad, and you're like, but they've always been so nice to me, right? Like that is such a interesting trope for them to play with. With Burnham coming in guns ablaze. Literally, they like cause a whole fire when they shoot into the ship, which by the way, visual effects team knocked it out of the park again this episode. Everything looked so good.
Including a floating dead body in space.
Yes. Also that the little as she's breaking apart. But
with shoes. Sorry.
The boots. There's those moments, man. They're so good. But I wanted to there's some interesting parallels with our very first episode of this show with like the nerve pinch to knock out the person that is trying to talk you out of doing something. And she's getting him off of the ship, but she hasn't communicated or made contact with the rest of the bridge crew. And it's like the bridge crew is on track to get to the bridge to go back to the nebula. Whereas Burnham is like, I am here to save all of the Federation.
Right. I love she's just on a mission. She's focused. And yeah, there's a communication breakdown, but she's doing what she thinks is going to be in the best interest. And she's a force of nature. She's awesome. when again, Clyde, when you said, we need someone like Giorgio, that is Burnham. Burnham is a person who she puts her mind to something and she executes it. And she will stab and punch and kick her way through to making sure that happens. Get irradiated and all sorts of stuff.
I'm gonna jump ahead here, but I'm just too curious. So, Saru, you've got Culber, you've got Adira. Do they live?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
in some way, shape, or form. Only because I don't think this is a major spoiler because they've been posting on social media like Doug Jones back in the makeup chair for season 4 already, and Blue DeBario and
spoiler.
They've been, in Toronto. So it's just like I don't think they're gonna kill off these characters.
Okay. I just thought I would ask. I think we talked about Blue being on the sign for season 5 last week.
This could be a good bait and switch.
I mean, I don't.
How many times you kill Culber? You can't keep doing that.
I don't think you can kill Culber. Not after how amazing Wilson Cruz has been this whole season. Like,
remember when they had Remember when they had a whole fake actor for Ash Tyler that they like threw into IMDb for like this person playing Vok and this other guy's playing Ash Tyler, and you're like, wow, you guys are putting in some effort here to confuse us. They could, I don't know. I'm skeptical too. I want to go back real quick to a comment I thought was pretty interesting from Dazza Greenwood over on Facebook. Says, I think you might have missed that. That Osyra successfully deceived the lie detector construct thingy. When it detected a lie, she showed some surprise and said there was a glitch. I believe that glitch was with her hack, not with the truth bot. Anyway, that's my hot freak, which I thought was interesting.
That could be interesting. I'm sure Osyra has the capability to perhaps pass something like that in some way, shape, or form, with the concept that maybe the nugget of like what she's actually saying is true, but like part of the intention might be false. Do you know what I mean?
So I'll say I agree with you, Mariah. And I was watching that. I read that or watched that scene slightly differently. What I saw was I thought she actually lied, and she was just like, "Oh, look, it's a glitch." And I thought that Vance was like, "Nah, I got that it was a lie." And then she asked him a question, and he went right past it. Right? It was a question that he would have had to lie to. She was asked, and Saru is on the planet. And he was or on Kaminar or something,
right?
And he went right past, and he goes, "Let's get back to this." And I was like, "Wow, that was very clever." So I thought she actually lied, and she was like, "Oh, it's a glitch," but everybody in the room knew it was actually a lie,
right? Because she might believe what she's saying for now.
Yeah.
Well, I have a quick question for the chat. Now that you've posed the question, Clyde, who is gonna die? Who, because we knew Blue Dude Rin was a dead man walking, right?
But yeah,
we've lost Rin.
I forgot he was still on the ship. So when he showed up, I was like, "Oh, dude, you are not going to make it."
I think Tilly is going to kill Zara. I want to see it.
Okay.
Or she's gonna like fully arrest him and he's gonna get thrown in space jail or whatever. Like something between Tilly and Zara has to happen, some sort of epic fight, possibly ending in death. And then I think our random brunette from the bridge is also going to be the one that we lose.
Is it we just lose a female like dies at in every finale. Like, wasn't it? What's her name? The robot lady,
Arium.
Ariam, who died in the last one.
I mean, the thing is just, right now, Starfleet's just full of kick-ass women who are kicking ass and taking names, and sometimes there's collateral,
Yeah.
I'm worried about Book.
You think Book? They're not gonna do anything to Book, although they
should.
did have a lot of I love yous this episode, and those were some good. It seemed like Burnham was just running around saying I love you to everyone.
Maybe that's our cliffhanger into the next season, is whether or not Book is alive.
100% her mom's gonna show up since she sent that quick telegram this episode.
I am so ready for murder guns to come in and to save the Federation headquarters.
Chekhov's mom was given a little telegram by Burnham, and that's a setup for next week's episode where they bust in and bad habits.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. Nice.
What if we lose
bad
Burnham?
habits? None.
What if we lose?
I see.
Oh, sorry. What if we lose Burnham's mom at the end of next step?
That would fit.
That would fit. I'm with Grant on that. I could see that.
I'm like, I know we're gonna have to emotionally torture Burnham because that's what this show does best.
What about Grudge? Can Grudge die?
No, you cannot joke about the cat.
First of all,
I think Grudge saves the day.
Save the cat. There's books about this.
I think the issue with Grudge is Grudge cannot die until we figure out why Grudge is special.
Right.
Okay. So until that reveal has happened, Grudge is fine.
What did you think of our little bot reveal? So we've seen, we had the discussion last week about prominent bot shots.
And you had the good theory.
The theory that perhaps they are evil, but instead perhaps they are good this time around.
Bots are not sus anymore. Nobody's sus. All the people we thought were sus aren't sus.
No more.
Sus no more.
Vance is back to being sus.
Quite the opposite, I think.
No, I think what's funny is that everybody's looking now that Vance is no longer sus. It feels as though he has become even hotter.
Oh, 100%.
Well, like when he was sus, like everybody knows I'm sus. That's not news. I stated that in like the first episode of the podcast. No, but it does feel like when Vance was sus, it was like, oh yeah, he's all right. But now that he's not sus and he's all high integrity Federation, it's like, yo, he's hot. I'm just saying.
Always and forever. After the mummy.
I get it.
Oded Fair can get whatever he wants after the mummy. So
yeah, I think the bots returning as the sphere to kind of give it a personification, like a physical body that we can now talk to rather than just like talking to the ship here is interesting. Now they have this teammate that's a multiple unit hive mind that can enact things that they probably couldn't even think of to help them. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool.
That reminds me of Eva from WALL-E. But
yeah. Right.
I like that. Did they do the little like live long and prosper hands, but with their tiny little robot hands at the end there? It looked like they were like, we're here to help. Like,
is this Trek trying to have their cute little baby Yoda? I don't know.
We get our cute dot. They call them dots too. They're not like
they're not that cute. They're no baby Yodas. Until they puke up little blue goo or something.
I don't know. I mean, I think it helped me understand why the dot was on the opening credits.
Yeah,
I mean, so there's a certain piece was like, okay, now I understand. That makes sense. How do I feel about the dots showing up to save the day and the personification of the computer?
The sphere data.
Sphere data. We'll see. I'm jury's still out for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm mostly impressed they could compress themselves enough to just fit into 3 bots for 100,000 years worth of data.
Yeah.
And
do they have special, like, I mean, if you're talking about 100,000 years of data, like, do they know all the martial arts? Like, are they going to be able to kick ass or not?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll
you
see.
Think it's the Matrix? Is this Neo in 3 bot form?
And you couldn't come up with a bigger bot? Like, there wasn't something else that you could use? You got this little thing? Like,
Speaking of Keanu Reeves, maybe all three of them merge into one station megabot.
I
That's
mean,
a
Like
Bill and Ted reference
Transformers.
for you.
if you're gonna have a bot, don't you want a big bot? Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. Hold your
You got
horses.
a bot the size of a trash can. I mean, what if one of these what are they, Rangers or Reapers or what are these things called? The bad guys?
Oh, I've already forgotten.
Yeah.
They feel like Borg, like light,
Yeah.
right?
But whatever they are, I just don't want them to come over.
Regulators.
The regulators. I hope they don't come over and kick one of these things. That's all I'm saying.
The biggest problem, though, is where's Reno? Reno and those bots is the biggest force to be reckoned with in the multiverse.
Reno clearly. Well, is it Reno?
He's just kicking back and eating Twizzlers with the guards or some shit.
Reverse.
Like, whatever. This will be all over in a bit.
Someone will come in and
Burnham's
save
like
me.
stabbing
Listen,
people.
I'm gonna be honest. I need Tig Notaro to be on this show in a much regular and consistent capacity, because it's driving me a little nuts. Because I think she's clearly one of the greatest assets the show has. I'm being selfish. No, I'm not saying that she needs to have all the lines every episode, but I'm just saying, like, be in 60% of the scenes and I'd be happy.
Yeah.
It would be great. But speaking of our quippy, amazing crew, I loved the Morse code moment.
Oh, right.
Where our group finally bands together and takes everybody down, and watching Olo just like freaking tear him down, like you said, Clyde, earlier. It was like we got to see a little bit of Terran in the prime, and I was here for it.
Yes. I said I wanted to see more Owo, and I didn't think we were gonna get it, and we got it. So it worked for me. And the Morse code thing was cool. That entire scene was nice because we got a chance to see the bridge crew like be special in ways that we don't normally get to see, because there's so much focus on Burnham and Book and Saru and at times Pike and at times Lorca. Now we're getting to see them do their thing, and that was kind of nice. It made me not miss Nan as much, or all the other or all the other people that we learn to love and then get kicked off the show. So
I thought that, the build up to that scene had a pretty great moment where I don't know what's the evil dude's name?
Zara.
Yeah, he was talking shit to Tilly and just like really breaking it down, like, oh, we took over your ship in like 10 minutes or something like that, and making her just feel lowest of low, a failure of leadership. And as soon as they take down those guards, you see her step right back into the role of leadership and start calling the shots with such conviction and authority. And I was like, yes, I love it. That's what I want to see. You're beaten down, you're mocked for what is a failed leadership in a lose-lose situation, which then she's able to turn the tables, and now I'm embracing how she's kind of taking back on the leadership, and she's calling shots. She's making the tougher call of leaving Book there to protect them and going forward with the rest of the team. I'm like, yeah, I'm buying into it a lot more now with Tilly.
Yeah, I really loved her. I feel like the building of the redemption arc for these last couple of episodes, she knows that this went all wrong, but she knows she's done all of the right things in a wrong situation, which I think is what's sort of grounding her in all of this. And so we're able to see her take command again. I think it's also because this whole crew still utterly respects her, not only as a friend, but as someone who is taking command, because they know how smart and capable she is, and that she is a very good problem solver. I mean, how many times have we had, there's that time, I think last season, where Tilly's like running from sick bay because Tilly knows how to solve the problem and is coming up and is like, the power of math, people. So I think they know that if Tilly has a plan, they can follow that plan. And she's definitely taking that leadership role seriously, even as we move into, their eventual move towards the bridge, and her being like, hey, if someone falls, like, we have to leave them behind because we have to get control of this ship. So let's go.
I had a few questions for y'all about this episode. The gun cufflink thing seemed
cool.
super
Very
fucking
cool.
awesome. Is that new tech for Discovery? I
Yes.
assume that wasn't in previous ones, right?
Yeah, no, that's brand new tech. During the Ready Room, they had like an interview with the props team, and they were talking about all of the new phasers that they were using, and the hand gestures that they have to sort of make things happen. And they work very closely with the visual effects team to make it so that it's like a seamless move into them holding a real prop, because the actors, if they're a main, get to hold these like aluminum made phasers so that there's some weight to them and they feel real. And it's really cool. The props department's been having a lot of fun this season with all the new tech that they have now that we're so far in the future.
Yeah, that was such a badass reveal of like it zipping back into her cufflink. I was like, oh my God, I want one of those. That's what James Bond needs right there.
It makes sense. I mean, if you're going to be climbing and moving in unpredictable environments, the last thing you need is to be trying to holster something that, accidentally shoots you in the hip.
And,
I mean,
and using it
already got
as a
knife
gun, as a heat ray, like as a bunch of different, like,
bomb when she gets rid of Stamets out the like portal door with that weird, it almost looks like goo, but it's not goo, that like flexible force field that was around him to send him to the to headquarters, which I thought was, again, we've talked a little bit about their dialogue, but that moment, it's like you're so distracted, you're like, ooh, new tech, ooh, the phaser's now a bomb that's gonna take out this window, and then you have Stamets just delivering the most heartbreaking dialogue to Burnham.
Stamets was fantastic this episode, just like through and through, from the back and forth with the other scientist to just the heartbreaking please. And when he got the reveal, I love when he says he has a kid, when he's talking to the scientist, and we all as the audience immediately know he's talking about Adira, and how he's just immediately taken to Adira as his adopted child. But then when he gets to reveal that Adira has also jumped onto that planet ship thing with Hugh, and the shift in his face of just devastation and desperation of, please, you have to let me do this. I can handle it. I can take the ship and we can jump and we can take care of all of it and save them. It was a fantastic moment. It was tragic in both parts because I saw it from his perspective. I understood where Burnham was coming from as well, and Burnham's gonna win in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that last pull of, I'm gonna say something so damaging to our friendship to try to get you to not do this, when he's like, we came here for you.
Yeah,
so that you wouldn't be alone.
We all sacrificed for you. How dare you do this? And I was like, making some great points there.
Yeah, but I felt like he was trying to look at it from the micro level, right? Like that's a you shouldn't do this. Like we did this for you. And Burnham is looking at it like this is from a macro decision. Osyra just controlled you and went to Federation headquarters, right? Like that just happened.
Burnham's like, if I was captain of the ship, this shit wouldn't have happened.
well, but she's looking at it and going, if she can do that, if she can take over Discovery and its spore drive, and if she wants to figure out how to do it, and they've already been talking about how to reverse engineer the spore drive. Now imagine the Emerald Chain with a fleet of these spore drives. There will be no Federation.
No.
Right? Like they've given you an opportunity to merge, right? Now they'll just acquire you. And so
throwing this up to distract you. There's a comment from Kate Fletcher that says that you sound like Geordi, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean that works for me. I'm flattered. But no, I think the question that I was gonna have for all of you was whose team are you on? Are you team Stamets or are you team Burnham on that decision?
Burnham.
I think I am Team Burnham, but I am more like I want to say Team Tilly because I think Tilly has a full plan that is accounting for both. And I think Burnham and Stamets are both on one track minds, whereas I think Tilly has taken a step back and is trying to figure out a way to manage all of this. And I think that's going to be her ultimate redemption.
Well, Mariah, you brought this up earlier that Tilly's headed to the bridge and she's got her own plans. Now, Osyra's back on the bridge, so that's going to be interesting. But let's say Tilly does manage to take the bridge back. Stamets is now at Federation headquarters. Like that's going to be
that hard to get him back on the ship.
Depends on where the ship is when they take it back over. Because at this point, she's headed away.
I am wondering, so there's still a warp capable ship though. Like they still have dilithium on the ship to be able to go at warp speed at least. Right. And then there's also the tunnel that they just came through. So I am wondering if we're going to see Discovery try to navigate its way through that subspace tunnel.
Ooh.
I mean, Burnham is operating from having a little bit more information. She's aware that there's more time that was bought for Hugh and Saru, because Adira jumped in there with
radiation
magic radiation pills. Yeah. And then Burnham has no intention of just letting them die. The first words out of her mouth when she beamed back onto Book's ship is, "We got to go back. We have to save them. They're going to die there." Then Book gives more details of like, "Oh, the other ship's probably about to get taken over." So that shifted everything for her. But like, I think that in the best interest, she knows that remove that ability of the ship to go through the spore drive, and you've basically crippled the ship. And now Osyra has no more negotiating weight and is a sitting duck. She could potentially execute all the other people on the ship, but Burnham is still John McClane in Nakatomi Tower and is gonna fuck some people up. And doesn't even know that Tilly and gang are also now on the loose. So they're all pretty screwed.
Linda B.
Osyra and team are all screwed. Let me clarify.
I'm excited because Linda B just reminded all of us in the chat of what Tilly said, which was basically "Don't stop for the fallen." That's not Tilly. That's definitely more Killy, and I love it. And so, Mariah, you might be right. I think what I'm hoping at least is that in the season finale, we're gonna see Tilly's plan account for Stamets not being on the Stamets, what he wants, what Burnham is trying to do, and the hero of all this is going to be Tilly with a little extra swag come season 5.
Ooh, are we ready for a wild Mariah theory?
Oh yeah, I'm always ready for a wild Mariah theory. Bring it.
Okay, so Stamets is off the ship, but Aurelio has already started growing tardigrade cells. What if Aurelio becomes a conduit for the mycelial network? And so he is now seeing the good of the Federation. He swaps teams and he's going to help them jump back so that they can rescue everyone from the nebula. And now we have like another great scientific mind who's on the side of the Federation, who's going to help the Federation put spore drives in all of their ships. And this whole conflict with the Emerald Chain continues on to the next season.
That's interesting. I mean, we have seen him in the background definitely being conflicted about what he thought was going on and what's actually going on with Osyra. However, you want to know what my wild theory is?
Yes, please. We're about to get a grant.
While he's doing that, I'll say, I love it, Mariah. I don't think it's going to happen, but I want it to happen.
Boom. There's my banner.
None of my wild theories end up actually happening.
I think we're going to find out that the person that Aurelio has a kid with is Osyra.
Yep. I'm with you. I think I'm with you, Grant.
The person who he got those piercings with. And so now
his baby mama.
What she's doing. Yep. And it's much more complicated than that, than simply going, "You're evil."
That's how she can control them.
What do y'all thinking? What do you think in the chat?
That's a wild one.
Possible. I had another
JC
question.
married is, I don't know if he's married.
Well, okay. They
But partnered up with.
Partnered, yes. Attached.
Did he say I thought the piercings were Andorian.
Oh, I thought they said it was green people and
Orion. He's super into Andorian opera. He was listening to Andorian opera because he does the whole thing about how the antennae make it sound like you can hear 4 more octaves or whatever he said. Stammet said it was Orion. All right.
Yeah, Takako says Orion.
Okay.
And we believe what Takako says. So
another audience, while you're checking us out, if you have questions for us, now would be a good time for you to start putting in your questions and comments with POD in the front. And then we will get to those in a minute. But I wanted to pose something to you guys. What's the deal with disguises? Do people disguise themselves as other people? I'm not talking about like Vok Ash Tyler kind of thing. I just mean like simple Mission Impossible latex mask or something like.
Yep, there's quite a few in Next Generation.
They did a lot of like surgery, like. It's apparently in the Next Generation, surgery is like not a big deal, so you can kind of alter your features and then go back.
Oh,
but yeah,
like, how's the tech not there that what's her name, Osyra would just be like, oh, I look like Tilly, hey, all's good, let me into the Federation space bubble.
I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen it.
I guess the lie
I'm
detector
sure
would be there.
Yeah, the lie detector would be there. I'm sure bioscans would show. That was a big one for why it was all like why Ash Tyler and that all of that kind of stuff is surgical, because there's an episode of TNG where Troy has to go undercover as a Romulan, and she has to have all this surgery done so that she totally appears Romulan.
Yeah, okay. That's just kind of what I was curious about.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Possible.
Kevin Richardson says, Pod, do you think the burn was a compelling mystery?
If it is what was revealed to us last week, it was not compelling. I'm not going to talk about how pissed I am about that, but I'm still holding out hope that in the season finale, where there are all these threads we're looking for them to tie up, one of those threads is going to be that the burn was a little bit more complex than an adolescent temper tantrum. So,
Clyde, as a fan of a certain TV show called Lost, I might point out that sometimes it's about the journey of the mystery and not the end reveal of what the actual answer is. Because I know that a lot of people were disappointed with some of the answers they finally got on Lost. I wasn't among them. I'm a true believer, but I think that the burn mystery throughout this season has been a lot of fun to come back to and think about, especially with its ramifications galaxy wide. It's a huge deal that suddenly you have all these like societies and civilizations reliant upon that, and it's a depleted resource. So yeah, very fascinating.
I think it's been a great catalyst for the conflict that we've set up here in the future. So I do think it was a smart choice, at least, to have, all connections and all travel and like all interconnectivity disrupted in such a big way, because I think it changes things so much from what we're used to seeing in this particular, like in the Star Trek world. So I've enjoyed it as a plot device for sure. Am I going to enjoy how it ends? I cannot tell you yet.
Yeah, I think the issue for me is there's more that you can dig into there. I think, Mariah, you bring up a question or a point. I think us, having a shortage of dilithium is an interesting kind of take on whether or not we have, reusable fuels and things like that. I think there's an interesting way you can continue to kind of dig in there. So that I think has been absolutely helpful as a catalyst. I just wish the reveal was a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more complex than what we got.
Kern says, do you think next week's episode will end with Saru being replaced as captain?
One could only hope.
You're not a Saru believer.
I'm kidding.
I feel like Saru's been put in a difficult position and has a gentler touch than maybe the times require. And if this is the proving ground that Burnham is the Kirk that can kind of take over the helm and push us in a more active direction, I'm okay with it. I would like more time for Saru, though.
I think I would only be okay with it if it's Saru's idea. Because
it would be sad otherwise, right?
Yeah, because I think it would have to be him deciding he wants to take on more of like a, maybe an ambassador kind of role, kind of like working to reconnect the Federation. Because we saw how good he was actually at doing that with all of these like touch points with the Vulcans and all of these other moments where he's like so good at making those connections with other people. But I don't think I would only really be okay with Saru stepping down if it's Saru's choice to step down and not like, we don't think you're a good enough captain. Because I do think he is a good enough captain. I think this, like you were saying, Grant, like the situation has definitely changed for what would make a good captain in this particular era.
Right.
But I don't think he's bad at it. I think he's still just like, what are they on like month 4 of being in this new future? Like how long have they been there?
True.
I'm hoping that we see Saru grow into being a great captain for this particular time period. Burnham is still very much a loose cannon right now.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me, I hate to say it, part of me feels like that's won't make a great captain, but part of me also feels like I like her in the role that she's in. You need a character who can run around the ship stabbed in the leg, dripping blood with no shoes on. You do need that character. And it's, to me, it's better and it makes more sense when that character is not your captain.
Right.
Man, I don't even know. Pod, will we find out the truth about Grudge next week?
No.
Grudge is simply a queen. That's all we need to know.
They're gonna merch the hell out of Grudge. Grudge is the baby Yoda of
Grudge. There you go. Yeah.
Star Trek.
I agree with.
I need more Grudge merch before we find out the truth.
No Grudge merch.
Unless Grudge becomes something even cuter. That would be the only thing.
So if going back to your theory, Mariah, if Dr. Aurelio or whatever, I think I'm butchering the name every single time, but if that scientist guy does become the second tardigrade mycelial conduit dude, they could have a second ship, and there could be a Saru ship and a Burnham ship.
I don't think we need that much split. If this was a 22 episode per season show, 100% yes.
They're just going to roll out another show.
Yeah,
but because these are only 10 to 13 episode seasons, definitely not.
Linda B says, hoping Dr. Kelpian, is that Dr. Isa, was carrying an experimental child. What does that mean?
I think the child became experimental when they landed on a radiation planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the other question I was going to say. Who's the president? And is it Grudge, according to Linda?
I don't think the president's been bouncing around the galaxy in a courier ship, although that would be interesting.
Is this the first we heard mention that Vance isn't the top dog? There's a president above?
No, they mentioned that they've kind of become one headquartered place, but that there was still sort of like the diplomats and then the military-ish more side of things. So I didn't think he was like our tippity top dog. I thought he was like, the person who's gonna have to deal with Discovery. But yeah, I'm hoping it's like a really cool guest star and we get to see who the president is at some point.
Scott Bakula comes back. It's been a long road.
I'm like
Yeah,
trying to think. I mean, it's too long for any characters we're going to know, but perhaps it's going to be a descendant of a character that we know, which will be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or, oh my gosh, guys, this is like the wildest theory, and I 100% know it's not true, but it's just like a wild thought I just had. So Picard is an android now.
Yes.
Picard is president.
Nope.
Yes. He doesn't die.
He can't die. He's lived for 3,000 years.
Wow.
All right, I've lost it, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm buying into this one.
Nope.
I like it.
Nope. It would be cool, but no.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be cool. It would be like total revolt of fans.
But it'd be funny. I mean, I mean,
Oh, man.
it would go against canon, and it would definitely be a jump the shark moment. But it would be a great like.
It would be a great Lower Decks episode.
Yes, it would be a great Lower Decks. It's one of those things that you want to see, but you kind of want it to be a bottle episode, almost like a dream episode that doesn't mess with the actual timelines. Like,
yeah,
a holodeck episode. That'd be hella funny.
Oh shit! Maybe the Doctor is the president.
What Doctor?
Cronenberg.
Oh,
Right? Isn't that the is? Or are they talking about
they might be
Doctor Who?
referring to the Doctor from Voyager.
Could be Doctor Who.
I
Oh,
thought they were talking about Cronenberg, but
I don't know. I thought maybe it was Cronenberg, but that's probably wrong. All right, we got some people saying Q or Picard.
It's gonna be Riker. He's been in every other show.
Riker's back. Takako says it'd be cool, but it's already been established that he would have the same lifespan as if he were human, Picard. So take that, Mariah's theory. Wild theory time.
But that's why it was a wild theory. All right, y'all. Do you have anything else before we close this one out?
I'm excited for the season finale.
Same.
Yeah.
And
very
disappointed at the same time. So,
and I think we'll be back at the same time, our usual time.
Yes, we will be back at our usual time on Thursday at 9. So you have to wait even less days to hear us back talking about Trek, since we're airing on a Friday this week. I'm very stoked for the finale. I'm also a little sad because it's the final ending of our weeks and weeks of new Trek that we have gotten. We're going to kind of come together and figure out what we're going to do in our little off season. But if y'all have ideas of things you'd like us to discuss, character breakdowns, perhaps I'll finally finish writing that one scene of the pilot episode y'all voted on during our last off season, and we'll do a table read. We will figure it out. But thank you all so much for tuning into the podcast this week. Again, like I said, we'll be back on our normal night, Thursday at 9 p.m. Central Time, on YouTube, Twitch, wherever you are watching us currently. Grant, how else can people connect with us?
Let's see. You can, of course, go to patreon.com/Star Trek Pod and make your per episode pledge. I even have a little banner I can put up. Boop. And we appreciate all of your support. You can also subscribe to us, rate and review us over on Apple. And you can check out our website, StarTrekPod.co.
And as always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Star Trek Pod. You can tweet about the episode, please. And if you're not too busy, why don't you let a couple people who help us out know how important they are? So if you are on Twitter by any chance, just let Karen, who helps run our Twitter, know that she's amazing. And if you're on our Insta, shout out to James Worm, who helps runs our Insta. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, James.
Thank you all so much for joining us on Star Trek Discovery Pod. Clyde, where are you at on the internets?
You can find me at Clyde Haynes on Twitter or on the web at www.keyandclyde.com. That's KEI and Clyde.com.
Grant.
At Baron Von Grant.
Nice. You can follow me at Mariah Gossett. That's Mariah with a Y and a Gossett with 2 S's and 2 T's. Anywhere online. You can also follow our usual captain, Mike, at Mike Moody Garcia on Twitter. Thank you all so much. Live long and prosper. Bye.
Bye.